Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. We talk a lot about data these days, but what if a single nation decided to treat all data, every click, every face, every journey, not just as, a commodity, but as a strategic national resource, like the very bedrock of its future economy and power? That's the mind-bending reality emerging in China, and today we're taking an in-depth exploration into what that truly means. We're drawing directly from a fascinating analysis in The Economist. It's a look at how one country is fundamentally redefining the online economy and the very evolution of artificial intelligence and what the implications are for everyone else.
Yeah, and it's far more than just, a technological shift. It really is a profound strategic move. It's got sweeping implications for international competition, global trade, and maybe even the future of governance itself. We'll be dissecting how China views and manages this absolutely crucial resource and what lessons or maybe even warnings it offers to democracies as they navigate their own complex data futures.
And you're about to discover some truly surprising facts about the sheer scale of data China is producing, and how its government is embedding data management directly into the core of its national security and, the significant trade-offs involved in such an ambitious undertaking. Okay, so let's really try and unpack this. It's hard to even visualize just how much data we're talking about, right? But The Economist's reporting throws out some staggering numbers. It really puts China's ambition into perspective. You've got China's 1.1 billion internet users. Alone, they churn out more data than anyone else on the planet. And then you add to that a vast expanding network of facial recognition cameras, the growing Internet of Things devices everywhere, smart cities, factories, plus the coming deluge of information from autonomous cars, flying vehicles. I mean, the sheer volume of data they're generating is just immense.
It is. But what's truly fascinating here isn't just the volume, massive though it is. It's the strategic intent behind it. For China's planners, data isn't merely, a byproduct of digital activity. They've fundamentally redefined it. They've elevated data to a full-fledged factor of production, putting it right alongside traditional resources like labor, capital, and land.
Wow. Alongside labor and capital.
Exactly. They've explicitly called data a foundational resource with a revolutionary impact on international competition. This isn't just talk, it's a fundamental shift. It positions data as a kind of nationalized asset, maybe like oil or minerals in the past. The key insight here, I think, is that China is proactively trying to create a new form of national wealth and a strategic competitive advantage by centrally controlling the very raw material of the AI age. That could give it an unparalleled edge over market-driven economies.
Right. And given this really ambitious vision, you might expect them to move carefully, maybe incrementally. But the Economist piece suggests China is moving at, breakneck speed. What's the timeline looking like? And specifically, how are their data governance rules now diverging from benchmarks like, say, Europe's GDPR?
Oh, the implementation is not just swift, it's incredibly sweeping and comprehensive. Back in 2021, China did release rules initially modeled on Europe's GDPR, focusing on personal data protection. That's true. However, the crucial point now is how rapidly they are diverging from those Western norms. It's quite stark. All levels of government are being pushed, really compelled, to marshal their existing data resources. Trishtown.
Well, for example, there's a major project underway right now to assess and actually value data piles at state-owned firms, treating them like any other valuable asset, even adding them to balance sheets or trading them on state-run exchanges.
Trading data on exchanges.
And just recently, on June 3rd, the State Council released new rules. These specifically compel all levels of government to share data with each other. So this is a clear, top-down, deeply integrated approach to national data management. It's moving way beyond just data protection towards active data utilization as a state asset.
Okay, while this grand strategy sounds a bit abstract, maybe focused on state firms, what does it truly mean for, the average person in China? Or for private businesses operating there? The article highlights a concrete step coming very soon, this July 15th, the rollout of a national digital ID. How significant is that?
Oh, this digital ID it represents a monumental shift, really. It means central authorities could gain direct control over a comprehensive ledger of pretty much every person's websites and apps. And it will fundamentally change how many big tech firms operate there. Because instead of directly linking your name to your detailed online activities, they might only see an anonymized stream of digits and letters for user activity.
Anonymized, so less useful for them.
Potentially, yes. This isn't just about privacy, though. It fundamentally dismantles the business model of many of these tech giants. Their profits are often built on granular user profiling and targeted advertising, right? Without that direct user identity linked to activity, their ability to personalize services and monetize data in the ways we're used to, well, it's severely curtailed.
Okay, so the ultimate goal then appears to be this massive, centralized, integrated national data ocean. Like a single national-level data repository, not just for government records, but potentially pulling in everything, social media, e-commerce, even movements tracked by cameras. This isn't just about collecting data, is it? It's about making all data interoperable and centrally accessible for state-directed purposes. What are the advantages China sees in building something on this, well, unparalleled scale?
From a state-centric perspective, the advantages they perceive are quite clear and compelling for them. Primarily, it's about immense economies of scale for training artificial intelligence models. AI, as we know, thrives on vast, diverse, and well-organized data sets. So a national data ocean could provide this inexhaustible, continuously updated feed for AI development. That's huge.
Right, the fuel for AI.
Exactly. And this centralized data pool could also potentially significantly lower barriers to entry for smaller, newer firms within China. It could give them access to a wealth of data they might not otherwise be able to acquire on their own. So you might see new kinds of innovation fostered that rely on that broad data access.
Okay, those sound like powerful advantages, especially for a nation aiming for AI dominance.
Yeah.
But any system of this scale and control inevitably has downsides, right? The article points to some equally clear disadvantages, particularly for those private firms, the ones that have been driving so much of China's digital innovation. What are the key concerns there?
Precisely. And this is where the critical tension within their model becomes really apparent. If private firms, especially the big tech giants who have been, data hoarders and innovators, if they lose control over the data they create and process, the data that is essentially their lifeblood, their profits could suffer significantly.
Because data is the asset.
It is. It's a key competitive asset in the digital age. It enables personalized services, targeted marketing, predictive analytics, all of that. So if a core driver of their business model is being, in a sense, nationalized, it could really diminish the incentives for innovation within the private sector. The argument goes, why invest heavily in generating and refining data if the state can just sort of commandeer it for broader purposes, maybe even share it with your competitors? This tension between state control and private sector dynamism, that's a crucial factor in how this whole experiment plays out.
So stepping back a bit, what does this all mean for you, the listener, and for other countries grappling with how to manage and control data? It's clearly not just a China story, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. Most countries are wrestling with how to effectively manage and control data in this new digital era, and we're seeing very different approaches globally, each with its own set of trade-offs. For example, in the United States, there were some reports suggesting previous administrations considered hiring private tech firms like Palantir to consolidate government data pools. That indicates a different path to centralization, one that still relies on private enterprise, but, with government oversight.
A public-private partnership model? Sort of.
Kind of. Then in Europe, the EU continues to update its comprehensive GDPR rules. These are already seen as a global benchmark for privacy, often prioritizing individual rights over maybe broad data utilization for economic growth. And look at India's Aadhaar system for digital IDs. While it aims for widespread identification, it prioritizes privacy through anonymization and consent. But that potentially comes at the expense of directly boosting its economy through the kind of centralized data use China is pursuing. Each model really reflects different values and economic priorities.
It sounds like every country needs to achieve some level of scale and efficiency in data management. But the path for democracies is just far more complex, maybe slower than the one China's taking.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, it certainly is. For democracies, the task is inherently much harder because they must build in essential checks and balances, safeguards for fundamental principles like property rights, individual privacy, civil liberties.
Things China's system might deprioritize for efficiency.
Well, that's the concern. The Economist article concludes by highlighting that as China embraces this vast experiment, it could indeed build an incredibly efficient system, one that processes data on an unprecedented scale, but one that also carries the potential to be, as they put it, dystopian. And this could represent a significant shift, where China, long seen as a fast follower of Western innovations in many areas, suddenly races ahead in demonstrating the financial value and strategic power of a national data ocean. posing a significant economic and geopolitical challenge through its unique method of, well, centralization. This whole discussion about China's evolving data empire really underscores that data isn't just about technology anymore. It's fundamentally about power, about economic value, and the very organization of society. It raises these critical questions about the trade-offs, efficiency versus innovation versus individual freedoms, that every nation and really every individual has to confront.
It certainly does. And this approach challenges all of us, doesn't it? To think deeply about what kind of digital future we want to build and what balance we strike between collective benefit and individual autonomy. So here's maybe a provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. If data truly becomes treated as a national asset, much like oil or minerals, how might this reframe our fundamental understanding of individual privacy and the very nature of innovation in the global digital economy, regardless of a country's political system? Something to consider as we move forward in this increasingly data-driven world. Thanks for joining us.